Welcome to the next episode of Comedy Guy with Louis Ezra, and I'm here with Tim Reedy in the studio. There we go. There's Tim, and on the Tim and Louis show today, we have a very special guest, Paul Senosi. He is South African, lives here, and you may know him from his Bobotie pies down in Baltijaam in Tallinn.
Louis.
Fantastic. What?
Bobotie.
Bobotie. Bobotie.
You can manage Parno. You can't manage Bobotie.
It'll take me some years. Bobotie.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Close enough.
Okay, good. And he makes the pies. If you've been buying pies from either the van or downstairs in Baltijaam, Paul is the man who behind it, the chef, the thinking, the big picture. Paul, welcome to the podcast.
Well,
I know
thank you for having me.
Good. We're all a bit weird here with microphones stuck in our faces. It's the warmest day. It's this Tuesday when everything's warm. We've just been having a couple of drinks at Untitled outside. It's delightful. Good day for it. Now, you've got I know in a little while you need to go cook, so you've got to make some pies this afternoon. Is this your daily schedule?
Yes, on a Wednesday we start with the preparations for the ingredients for the pies, not the actual baking, but the actual cooking of the ingredients. So my assistant chef will be there in the next hour doing the cutting, chopping, and prepping. You know, I'm fortunate enough to have found half South African, half Namibian to assist. I found him 2 weeks ago, so now I have the opportunity to take a bit of time out.
He must be huge if he's half South African, half Namibian. It's usually my experience.
Yeah. Yes, I think he's a bit of Hereru from Namibia as well. Yeah.
Okay, so now you've been doing. How long have you been making the pies for?
Well, let's go back to food. I always knew when I came to Estonia that food will be the thing that I will do eventually. So with the pies, I started roughly 1 year ago, around about at the end of April last year, after leaving the education sector in Estonia. So this is what took me there. So say roughly 1 year.
Okay, not bad for a year. Not bad. Kind of. Was getting to Baltijaam sort of your first preference? Is this what you always envisaged?
Yes. When I started out, I didn't have a space, to be honest. I didn't have a place even to cook. And so I knocked on the doors of a restaurant, Frenchie, and started using their kitchen from around 4 o'clock in the morning. That was quite a bit of a nightmare.
Dang.
Yeah, that's cooking and making pies in the morning.
Yeah.
So yeah, I started with Frenchie and also selling from the African shop downstairs. He offered me a little space, a table, a stand, where I could put my pie warmer. And this is how we started out, you know. Some days you sold almost no pies at the beginning, but nobody knew what pies were,
sure.
you know.
There's an African shop downstairs in Frenchie, is there?
No, just down here.
Just down here.
Just here?
In Teleskivy, next there's the cafe, there's the nudist, and next to the nudist.
Next to the nudist, yeah. On the
Okay.
corner.
Oh, yeah.
Africa board.
Africa board.
Africa board.
Absolutely. And this is where we started, you know, and it's been a year now. So I always knew that this would be a good area to launch the product. And eventually, when the truck came and we got permission to park the truck at Baltijaam, you know, it was a good time of the year, like now with the weather being so great. But tables and chairs outside, it drew people in instantly because, you know, people want to discover something new. That's very much part of the Estonian culture of exploring new foods and so on. And so it went well from there after the truck came to Baltijaam.
I'll tell you because I used to pass your truck and on the scooter. I do scoot. I'm a big boy, but they can take me. It's all right. And I saw you used to have a little South African flag in the corner.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a piss take. I thought it was some bloke who just left his house truck.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay. Because it was always closed when I passed by.
Yeah.
And then one day I'm like, hold on a second, let me have a look. And I come up closer and I see Bobotie pie. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Wah! And then I came back the first time and I was like, all right, we got pies finally. In Estonia, you know?
No, initially it was a bit hard to trade every day. You know, it takes quite a bit of energy because I was working for close to 1 year. I was doing almost everything by myself, cleaning the kitchen, washing the floors, cutting, prepping, cooking, making pies. So it takes 18 to 20 hours of your day, you know, so you have to do the hustle as an entrepreneur. So it really took a bit much. And then when I got my first employee, things became a bit lighter, and to the point where I have a bit of free time also now.
I suppose for you as well, a year isn't a year really, because it's too cold in winter for if you have a truck back then at least.
Yes, I actually stuck it out until the end of December in the food truck. You know,
Not bad.
It was -5 inside the truck.
Because I showed
You
up
know?
one morning and he was outside filling up a drum with water.
Yeah.
And I was like, how are you alive? I was like, the oven must warm the truck. He's like, no.
No, it remained at -5 inside the truck. So it was quite a challenge, to hang in there until the end of December. Then I knew Jan and Feb might get a bit colder. And I went to speak to the management of Baltijaam and I say, Sander, listen here, I have to come inside. And that's where I got to the spot inside in Baltijaam.
Okay, so right now, just if people haven't seen your pies there, if you go into Baltijaam, you're downstairs next to the Selva.
Yeah, there's a Turkish guy next to me selling some Turkish delights and beautiful Turkish things. So I'm right next to him, and we will remain there throughout the season. And, we bring the truck back, of course, for the summer season, spring, summer, and early parts of autumn. Hopefully not until December again. And so we will start off the truck on the 20th of May, right here in Teleskivi, in front of, is it Pudelbar?
Pudel, yeah.
Pudel, yeah. We will start there on the 20th of May. We will remain there for at least 2 weeks until the end of May 31st. And if things go well or not well, I don't know. We will definitely go back to Baltijaam, and this time around we'll also do some outside grilling, which is called braai in South Africa. So
Braai. Is that the name of the sausage or the technique?
That's what we do. South Africa, we are known for braaiing and outdoor cooking. So in this case, launching the braai would be upfront the boerewors, the sausage that is so famous from South Africa. I think you have had a chance to taste it.
Yes, I have.
What goes into it? Why is a South African worst?
It's the herbs and spices that we use, and the combination of fat, the ratio of fat versus beef. It's just a taste explosion. Nobody in South Africa will go past a nice warm weekend without grilling outside, and boerewors would be a staple in this braai.
Because Estonian sausages are probably 1% meat, 99% suffering.
Right.
Yeah.
So it'll be nice. No offense, Estonia, but your sausages are fucking terrible. So it'll be nice to have.
Get on it. So you talked about the ratio of fat and meat. So without giving away your trade secrets, of course, in general, why was there more meat, more fat? What's the?
It's 80% meat and 20% fat, and you need this fat when you grill.
Yep.
Otherwise, the sausage will be bone dry. So this fat, the main reason for the fat is to make sure that the meat, once you take it off the grill, that there's still some juice inside, and also to add some flavor for sure.
Could you tell me what the difference is between? Because there's biltong and then there's drooivors.
Yeah.
What's the difference?
Let's call it, The biltong is a piece of meat that is dried, a whole piece of meat. Whereas boerewors, not boerewors, but drooivors.
Drooivors, sorry.
Drooivors,
My
yes.
pronunciation is
When with drooivors you have the same like a boerewors almost, a sausage.
But it's smoked or?
It's not smoked, it's dried.
Okay.
Same kinds of herbs and spices that you find on biltong more or less, inside the casing.
Okay.
And this is dried out, hang for some time until it's nice and, awesomely good.
Yeah. We're going to go there, Lewis.
You're going to be grilling. That's tremendous. So, I mean, that's going to be more work for you because you're going to be out there now. You're doing the grilling as well. There's no more.
Of course. And I will bring 2 more persons in for the season, starting from next week. One lady to work downstairs in Baltijaam, replacing me. I hope, doing a good job at that. And then also a second chef on the truck, because we'll have a wider menu, as of course the pies, some desserts and drinks, and the boerewors with chakalaka on top. And
what's chakalaka again?
Chakalaka is a chunky, spicy vegetable mix.
Oh, it's like a salsa kind of, right?
Yeah, with green peppers, red peppers, yellow peppers, some onions, some garlic, and some beans, and a nice gravyish kind of sauce. And it just adds, it's amazing.
Yeah, I'd love in the middle of winter a poti. Apartheid is like the history of it's a pot basically, like with a stew in it.
Okay.
But the history of it is amazing because it was I mean, he should be telling this story, but it was created by the Voortrekkers, the Dutch settlers who left the Western Cape to go off
with the Ossawa.
Yeah. And they would basically ride their horses and sit on this meat, and it would slowly tenderize the meat as they rode. And then in the evening, they would chuck it all into a pot and cook it. And then they'd carry the pot with them wherever they went. So it was this like, there's a word for it, isn't it? Like a forever stew or there's like a word for it. So it's a constantly cooking stew that keeps getting better and better and better.
Yeah.
But like for cold winter months, something like that would cure depression.
Yeah, I mean, it's very seldom that you find a household without a poikie, a three-legged pot, or poikie as we call it, and stew from a pot. You sit there, you sit for hours, you watch the pot, and while you're watching, of course, you do the next best thing, which is having a few glasses of something good.
Of course.
You know? So this is the tradition in South Africa that it's probably something that I will bring with me now to the truck during the season, because I have a few of these three-legged pots, and we will include this in the repertoire of our food that we have available this summer.
Because when Tim first told me, you gotta have the pies, go down. There's the pie guy, and with all respect to your South African traditions and the traditional recipe and so forth. I mean, what hit me is it's the closest thing to an Aussie meat pie that I've had in Estonia, that I was like, okay, it's packaged up different. It's not the little foil thing. It's not round. But if you give me that good mince pie, I was like, whoa, this is just like Aussie meat pie. Yeah, very. And I guess there's some sort of common heritage there or so if you go back and back and back.
Yeah, I think so. I have the same kind of feedback from most of the Australians who come and the English as well, you know, that I would say that if you look at the Commonwealth, and we all form part of that history, the export of food from the UK to Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, and so on, we sort of share a common food history, and I would not lay claim to the pies as being a South African invention for sure, you know. So I would say the English played a huge part in our food traditions and culture.
How traditional are your recipes to what they are back home? Like, I mean, chicken and mushroom. The curry one was the one that threw me a bit. I was like, curry in a pie? That's mental.
Yeah. Bobotie is, I would say, a later addition to the pie family in South Africa. I went last March to just refresh my culinary history on food, and I went pie tasting for 2 weeks. So 5-6 pies, different pie places a day.
When you were at home in South Africa?
In South Africa.
Okay, yes.
Just to get a feel again for what pie should taste like. And I can tell you something that before this, I had Bobotie all the time, and I'm accustomed to Bobotie, but honestly never had it in a pie.
So, sorry.
I never had it in a pie, and it's only a year when I came back, I had it in a few of these farm stalls, and it was just an amazing experience. This is something that I would like to bring back, and hence also the name of the company, you know, named after this Bobotie.
Explain I don't know, what's the Bobotie specifically?
Yeah, Bobotie is the oldest recorded recipe in South African culinary history.
Okay.
So probably dating back to 1672 roundabout, when the Dutch who settled in the Cape brought the people from Java, Indonesia, Malaysia, and so on to the Cape, and they brought with them their own food. History and culture, like spices that were not common in the Cape, and they brought also things like chutney, Baltijaam, as it was called back then, and on a Sunday they didn't have access to meat, and then the leftover meat from the Sunday meals they took with them on Monday, chopped it up, and added their spices, tamarind, curry, and so on, and also fruits. And this is actually the birthplace then of a dish called Bobotie, served with some carrots, glazed carrots, with some beetroot, yellow rice, with
So is it close to being the mince in a meat pie or something?
It is
something in that area,
and covered with a custard layer.
Right. Oh, so just taking the mince out and
Yeah,
right.
you cook the mince pie. You cook the mince for the mince pie with all these beautiful ingredients, and then You put it in a square dish, cover it with this custard layer, then bake it in the oven. And that's how traditionally you would eat a bobotie. But normally it's not served in a pie. And I thought this would be a winner if we could bring this back as a pie to Estonia.
Well, it is.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that.
So are all those okay? So bobotie pies. So you first tried the. Did you see a bobotie pie in South Africa, or you had the idea?
I went to taste it there.
Right, to taste them there.
And I thought this is just beyond awesome. And I thought this would be a lead for our business. You know, this would be the main pie in our staple of pies.
Which is, what do you call then? Like when I look down your recipe menu or your menu when I'm buying a pie, which one is the bobotie?
It's the beef pie.
The beef pie.
Yeah,
okay,
it's the beef
right.
pie. I mean, we have other pies also that contains beef, like the steak pie, which would be a full beef fillet inside a pie with a very beautiful gravy. But this would be the lead beef pie then.
Okay.
Yeah, love it.
It is good stuff.
Yeah. So how long have you been in Estonia for?
I think this year is 13 years.
I really don't want him to ask the question that we both hate. Why did you come to Estonia?
Hey, I was actually on a boat somewhere and...
Oh, Jesus, they came on the boats. Turn back the boats.
exactly.
Now you triggered the Australian. Turn back the boats.
Yeah, it was a stag party, and when I think we drank too much, and it was a few days later, and we came to the sport, and they said, this is talent, and I said... let me get off here, you know. That's not a true story. Anyhow, I met a lovely lassie in South Africa, and, you know, we fell in love, and I had to make a decision, where do we settle? And as an older man, of course, and she was a young lady, I thought I have done enough in South Africa, and it's time for me to move on. And we decided to settle in Estonia. And 2 kids later, Sas and Simona. And yeah, that's what brought me here. Yeah.
And again, I just like, how old are you, Paul?
Turning 57 this year.
Tremendous. Doesn't look it.
Doesn't look at it.
Doesn't look it at all.
You look older than him.
I've got the beard. I got the grey. It's smooth.
The secret is a few drinks every day.
Okay.
That's
And bobotie.
and bobotie. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, that's an acceptable answer. I mean, why we got to address it? What's the thing? What do you hear?
According to his logic, I'm going to live forever then.
Yeah.
So where does your and I know we talked a bit about this before, but let's go back again. What's your history with food? Where does it start with you and food?
I would give most of the credit to my mom. You know, as a young bloke, I always observed. I had this natural feel for food. You know, it was something that was driving me forward. You know, I would watch my mom and I would want to take part. And I see parts of that now also in my own son, Sas, that when I cook, he wants to be there. He knows how to clean. He knows how to put the stuff away. I don't ask him to do this. I don't teach him. He observes. And he wants to do the same. So I think if I look at him, then I see myself back then when I was a small bloke, that my mom played a tremendous role in my life, you know. I remember when I was younger, we had this bath and a wooden plank and some sunlight soap, the green block. And I would watch my mom do the washing on this piece of wood. And she'd go to kshik, kshik, kshik.
With the clothes washing?
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, that's old school style.
Yeah, that's old school style.
Yeah, there's
in
no
the,
machine.
In a zinc bath.
Yeah, okay, there's no machine
No,
here,
no.
yeah.
And I was so fascinated by this. And I said, I want to do that same thing. And I would get on a stool or something, and I would stand up there next to my mom, and I'd say, I also want to use some wooden plank of some sort. And I would go there, and I'd do this with her. And it was great fun. For other kids, they were like, you must be out of your mind doing washing with your mom, you know. But for me, I was fascinated by these things. Taking a wooden brush and scrubbing the floors, and then putting some cobra polish on it, a thick layer, wait until it dries, and then you have another brush, and you brush the floors again until it shines. It was miraculous for me. So these kinds of things fascinated me as a young boy. So I knew that cooking and cleaning and these kind of things would be part of who I am, because it was born right there. And so my mum led the way, and she would do weddings and birthday parties and so on. She's an amazing florist, still today. She's almost 80 years old, but she's still going strong in this environment. So she would say, son, we have this birthday party or a wedding or something. You need to bake some cake. I say, Mum, I was 10, 11. She would leave me in the kitchen.
Yeah.
She says, we need 200 fairy cakes. I would bake it, cut it up, decorate it, and when she comes back in the evening, it's ready for delivery. So she entrusted me with this responsibility of taking care, and she understood that I would be able to do it. She would not entrust something in my hands that she knew I would not be able to cope with.
Sure. I mean, it's all those sort of things when encouraging young people. Responsibility is the way to go, and there's a little bit of give and take. And can they do it? Yes, they can. Is it within the realm of something they could do if they've never done before? And then through that, you gain confidence as a young man. No doubt you were thrilled that your mother had given you this responsibility, and it sounds like you took it seriously and you wanted to do a good job.
Yeah, and somehow, I mean, I went in a different direction after that. As a teenager and so on, went to work as a teacher and so on. But the food remained. You know, I remember there was a friend of mine, Werner Wessels, a very German name in surname, of course, but not German at all. He lived in a town that was occupied by, or spiritually occupied by the Germans. But nonetheless, I came to his apartment once as a young teacher, and he said, hey, Paul, we're going to have a drink, but there's nothing to eat. I say, okay. I went to his fridge, I went to his cupboard, and I took out what I could. And I cooked a meal for the guys and say, but Paul, there was nothing in the house. I say, there was enough stuff in this house to cook a full meal. You just don't know what to do with the things that you have in your fridge and in your cupboards, you know. So I knew what to do with things. I knew how to handle food, even though I have absolutely no formal training in this environment, you know. But it was there. It was a seed that was planted, and it just grew.
Was that something as well, like... the spirit of the time or the feeling, okay, at that time in South Africa, okay, you weren't rich people as well.
Yeah.
So to say, and there was also a spirit of using what you had and learning to work with, okay, there's no machine, we've got to use the wood and put the clothes on it.
Yeah.
And so
my mom, I mean, she was a miracle worker, because at one point I remember my dad lost his job at Consanis Engineering. My mom was a housewife with 6 kids, all in school at the same time. Your father loses his job. He was the main breadwinner. Your mom is a housewife. And now all of a sudden you have to do with 0 income. 6 children, all in school. And somehow my mom used to make food every night. I do not understand how she did that. But I think it comes from there to make do with the little that you have and to create miracles. I grew up also in a very spiritual household. You know, my grandfather was a pastor in the church and also a school headmaster. So that was now from my father's side. And, you know, it reminded me of the story of Jesus going around and saying, hey, guys, we've got a few fish and we've got a few bread and we'll make something happen, you know. So my mom is almost like that kind of miracle worker. She could make things happen with little.
I mean, that's where all well, it's debatable, but what I would say where all my favorite foods come from is, but it's not a nice term, but poverty food, you know. That's what we.
I was about to
say in Ireland.
Is like, that what you want to eat, Tim? Not food that comes from poor people.
But like, exactly, we were poor growing up, and my mother would make fantastic stews out of nothing, you know. And I mean, French cuisine is great and all, but give me a stew or a pie, and you know, I'd prefer that.
I think one of the things that I found lacking, I used to do cooking shows all over the country, right? Travel from town to town. I was in Parno, I'm in Tartu every month. I was in Tallinn doing cooking classes every month for a few years.
Well, you were offering your services as that, like a private classes or something like this? Okay.
At Tallinn Athene School, Tartu Rachvolikol, and so on. And one of the things that people ask me, but Paul, why is it taking so long? They what is this? I say, it's patience. That is the difference maker when you cook food. And so I get 5 kilos of beef mince. And so you can take that beef mince and make it into cutlets or frikadelle or you know, meatballs. And you can just squash it down and then do 3 minutes aside and you have a burger, right? Or you can take 2 hours and make bobotie. From there.
Yeah.
You know, you can take half an hour with your onions and your garlic and your starting ingredients and cook it down to a paste that is almost a jam. And then you add your other ingredients. So it's really about patience and adding value to what it is that you're doing with that food. And for me, this is a critical component when it comes to making food. I put my soul in there, and I give a bit of myself. It's not only a quick meal, you know. People say, "Do you have onions in your food?" I say, "Yeah." "Oh, I don't eat onions." I say, "But there are no onions in the food now. There's an onion jam in there.
Yeah.
It's gone.
Yeah, okay.
You will never see it, and you will not taste onions. But it adds to the flavor."
Without jumping to the end of the story a bit, how do you see how your business grows and how you scale that? Because we've seen over the last, let's say, 5 years, the growth of, let's say, burgers in Estonia. Okay, everyone's got a burger van now. Everyone's got burgers. That's fine, you know. And we've seen a whole bunch of them that started really good when it was one store, and you know we know the bloke. But then they expanded, and there's only so far they've been able to hire enough people at a certain. You know, the quality dropped off. It's still okay. You probably still get a burger there, but you remember the good old days, how it was better. Like, have you given a thought to how you're going to be able to scale what you do?
If we talk about scaling, I mean, we had this food truck only last season, and now we have the space in Baltijaam as a store, and bringing the food truck back also to a different destination, starting initially in Teleskivi. Definitely, this would be growth already.
Oh, absolutely.
Scaling up.
Sure.
2 destinations. And there were many requests. I even had a guy from the UK saying, "I'm willing to invest. Let's take this product and explode it." And I say, I'm not in that market to explode the things very quickly and to put it everywhere in the country and then take it to Latvia and Lithuania. Say, I want to grow this thing slowly and always keep the same high value and quality. I had requests, you give us a recipe, we cook it for you. You know, and this was normal requests from people saying, I help you, I put some money in your business, but we get a few chefs and you just give the recipe. And I say, at this moment, I'm still cooking with my soul. You know, I need to train 1 or 2 persons with me for a few months so they understand what it is that we need to do with the food. And so I'm not in a particular hurry to make this happen.
The patience is here as well.
Patience. And because I walked through the old town some years ago with a friend, Diego, and I said to him, when I start a food business, I want to offer people something really amazing at a very reasonable price. And I want to maintain that all throughout the business cycle. I don't want to change that at all for no one. So it's not about making money. Money's okay. It will come. But it's maintaining that high quality and standards all the time.
Because that's the thing, like behind a great product, like a food product, there's usually a great person behind it, you know. But then when you explode massively, let's say, I don't know, Selver wants to buy your pies, and you have to get a factory, and like the individual loses control of things, kind of, and doesn't get their hand in the product every day. So that's why the quality can kind of run away from you.
Well, something like your Selver example there, not only, let's theorize, right? So big company wants, big supermarket wants, not only would you have to ramp up the production, which means more chefs, less time to train them, but the way that your product is sold is completely different. Now, when people come to you, they remember this bloke. I remember this bloke here, the seller in the van or wherever. He's got a story. He's got a smile. It's a destination. If I'm just buying the pie out of the back and Selva bringing up the thing, it's got a ticket.
Half of them are being chucked out because they're, you know,
right.
Kind of
Selva, even if they're still making a profit off that, that's a bit of the soul as well in the product.
For me, it's to have this conversation with people is very important. I don't think I will be able to do it without that. And that's why it's so painful for me, I think, to hand over, because this is an important part of this whole equation, to say, I now give over to someone. So I have 1 or 2 persons in mind already that are, you know, that I feel they have the right kind of connection with the food. And one of the blokes who I have in mind, he eats the stuff all the time, and he talks about the food when he comes to me. You know, he shares his experience and his emotions around. And he invites me to his house next week to say, Paul, I want you to come and have a bite with me also. I'm going to cook for you.
Okay.
So I feel that, you know, I feel that connection. And for me, this will be the critical difference maker when it comes to choosing a person to replace me in Baltijaam, you know. Somebody that can reach out to people and say, how are you doing today? And have the small conversation. The small talk is important. You know?
That's very interesting. How to do that and do it well without being an El Have fuckhead in the middle of the mall who hijacks you and makes you feel weird, like because they're just kids.
I suppose they have not deadlines. They have like quotas that they got to meet per day or some shit, right? So they have to
target of some sort.
Yeah, they have to be like, hey, you come over here. Whereas when it's just some friendly guy going like, hey,
right. I think those El Have, those ones in the mall. I mean, you know who I'm talking about. Whatever El Have, Telia in the mall. I think they're getting more kids doing that because now you can't go to America to sell books. It's the same personality that used to go sell books with whatever Western Express, whatever the fuck it was called, Western Experience. It's that same kind of thing. But it's not, because it's not personal though. That's why I don't want to talk to them. I don't need to buy your El Have. Frig off. Where there is a way, because now it feels like in Estonia that it was El Have were the first one to do this, and they sort of proved it, that they kind of built their bank off the back of people in malls, and that's how they how they built a bank from scratch. And now it seems like, oh yes, that's what we need to do. So Telia is doing it, and there's they'll accost you in the mall, and it's like, no, you're getting the wrong idea. Like the trick worked once with El Have. Okay, fine. Over a couple of years, everyone got banks, but now we're like, Telia, fuck off. Now we're like, no, I don't want this anymore. Now if you do it, because they're not doing it with soul and heart, it's just a company. This is a tactic. Where this is not a tactic for you. This is the core of who you are.
Also, they're Estonian people. Like, if I had a food business or whatever, I'd have this same exact, and it's natural for us to be able to go, hey man, how's it going? Whereas the Estonians are very like, we have product. Hey, come buy product.
For me, sometimes the people who clean around. I mean, when I came into the market, the first Sunday, I took 2 trays of pies, and I walk around the market to all the stall holders, and I handed out pies to say hello. I'm inside now. My name is Paul, and I would like to meet you. Initially, there was this, oh my God, what are you doing? But I'll take one. But okay. And in the evening, when I see the cleaning ladies come past and so on, and I say, sometimes I would just sneak past them and go to the trolley and put the packet of 2 pies in the trolley. They don't know that I put it there. So the next day they come back and they maybe say something in Russian or in Estonian, and I say, no worries, you do your thing, So for me, it's natural for me to give. I just can't stop doing that. Right. So those cleaning ladies, I mean, they almost down out on their luck with the kind of salaries that they earn. So a nice warm pie or 2 pies to take home to the family, it makes a big difference to their lives.
Like that's the difference between El Have and the likes of Bobotie. Is El Have, they're motivated by profits. It's all they care about. Whereas really the goal should be to just increase the net happiness of the world, That's the goal. Fuck profits, Money's nice.
Sure.
But it's not everything,
Yeah, I mean, in the market, maybe I should not say this, but in the market we have as I say, I spoke about it earlier, that it's sort of my mission in life to build a community within the market, and I make a point of going and greeting as many people as I possibly can in the morning and say, buongiorno, bonjour, привет, как дела, хорошо, and so on, even tere, homikust, and so on. And just staying connected to the people. And so what you're going to have today, you want a chicken pie, you want a chicken bacon, you want a chicken curry, whatever you want, I'll send it downstairs or upstairs, and then somebody will send me something to eat, and it's an exchange economy, We're looking up. I don't want to eat pies every day, for breakfast.
Sure.
So, now and again I want a different meal, So then somebody will send me something nice, and it's that kind of spirit. I think we call it in South Africa the spirit of Ubuntu.
Yeah.
I am because of you, and because of you I am. You are me, and I'm you. We're connected. And it's not only a South African thing, even though the word comes from there, but it's something that is possible everywhere. That we care about each other in such a way that I believe that you make me different, and because of you I am. So that is completely possible.
I feel like, Tim, I feel like, I don't know, I've been here for too long and I got too adapted or something. Like, it took you to point it out, Tim, that this culture exists in Baltijaam of that it was like, and it was a real thing. I think at first I sort of went down there and went, oh, okay, there's a couple of fucking Itites doing their thing, cooking there, and there's some Chinese guy cooking, like, all right, okay. And then it sort of to really sink in, like, this is a real market. Yeah. This is a real, I mean, that's the, you had to point that out to me, these experiences.
Because, like, when I walk through Baltijaam, like, it's not just, oh, Tim is here, he might buy a steak. It's like, oh, just hello,
Oh, yeah.
And if I'm there to buy a steak, I am. If I'm not, I'm not. But I can still say hello to the guy and how are you doing? And oh yeah, great. Yeah, I might be back tomorrow. Whatever. It's because for me, it's like I've talked about this ad nauseum on this podcast. But it's like you have Ubuntu. I have just being from County Kerry on the west coast of Ireland. It's the same exact thing.
Yeah.
We don't really care about ourselves so much. We're all raised to just give everyone everything. Give you the shirt off my back. I don't need a shirt. Just walk around topless. You know what I mean?
I have an Irish brother-in-law, Michael Burke. He lives in Leeds with my sister Lillian. And I mean, first time I met Mike in Cape Town, I didn't have a place to sleep in my house. And Mike said, come on, there's a floor. And I said, I'm not the white man. So here's a white man coming to my house. And he says, I'm sleeping on the floor. And I said, there's something wrong with this bloke, But he's not South African, of course. He's an Irishman. And for him, the floor was the best thing. And he slept on the floor and he was a happy man, So that for me was also a learning experience, to say there are different kinds of people in the world, not all of them are the same.
But I feel like we're losing the spirit a bit. Like every time I go back home to Ireland, and I mean, Dublin is a city like any other, but there's this like, it's like the city is sapping the soul out of the country. I go back and everyone is just bothered all the time now, and they're glued to their phones. People talk to each other less. Fuck knows what's going to happen now that the pubs have been closed for 16 months.
Christ, yeah.
But, that kind of spirit, it's certainly being sapped out of Ireland, which is concerning. That's why I double my efforts here in Estonia to look after you fuckers, to try and give something back,
Yeah, absolutely.
Where did you grow up in South Africa?
I grew up in the Western Cape, in Cape Town.
Okay. Are you a rugby fan, are you?
I love rugby and I played a bit, also picked up an injury while playing on my knee. And that was as a young teacher. We had this thing where we had this teacher, high school derby. The first team of the school plays against the teachers.
Okay.
Once a year.
Yeah.
And I was stupid enough to think this is a good idea, because these blokes, you teach them in high school. This is like grade 11 and 12 boys, right? Now, South African blokes are not small when it comes to rugby. So, and I'm not the tallest guy in the world. So I was skinny still as a teacher. I think I was around 67 kilos, right?
Yeah.
But I'm fast. I was a wing. I played on the left wing. And, man, these boys, because I also coached the athletics, I did 100 meters for the school. So, and they see you as a young bloke that's a bit cocky, and there might be some of the schoolgirls that like this new teacher. He just came out of university, he's fresh and young, and they don't like you because they're not too. I'm 23 years old. They're 19.
Yeah,
so
okay. You're not that old of that.
Yeah, exactly. And and on this day is their day to pay you back.
Yeah. And,
I tackled one of them, collarbone, hospital. Right, so then my turn came. I'm on the left wing, I'm alone. The teachers are already, the pack is folding all the time because they don't have the stamina anymore. The director's also playing at the school and so on, the old blokes.
Yeah.
And after 5 minutes in the field, you can already see the guys.
I bet, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm seeing that I am unprotected on the left wing, there's nobody anymore. People are sitting down a bit, resting, the teachers.
Yeah.
And at one point, Muhammad and another guy, Muhammad was a taxi driver. In South Africa, if you're a taxi driver, minibus taxi, you respect it.
Yeah.
Some gold teeth and so on, the gangsters were afraid of him. So
he was a teacher or?
No, student.
One of the students, okay, yeah.
So he drove those minibus taxis. And in Mitchell's Plain, where I was teaching, this is something that is for hardcore guys, Anyhow, Muhammad is there on the center, and there's another guy on the other side on the wing, and they decided they're going to do a high up and under towards the left wing. Okay. They isolate me completely. And it's one of those balls that
hangs in the air, yeah.
It hangs and say, Jesus, just come down, I need to grab it, just sidestep and kick it again. This ball doesn't come down. At that time, I see the two of them coming, one down the line, one from the side. I'm alone. And I think, what do? I stand my man. I stand my ground today. Or I go for the ball. I made the wrong decision. I went for the ball. Go up. I'm up and I just say, poof.
Poof, they take you out mid-air.
Legs out. I'm on the sideline. The girls, they go crazy because it's payday. It's payback time. I'm lying there on the side. I can't get up properly. Hospital, knee operation. So they got me.
Okay.
So that was the end of my rugby career.
Pity. Because rugby is one of the like in Ireland, the UK, like rugby is seen as kind of an upper class sport. But in South Africa, it was one of the great unifiers after independence, I guess, or unification or whatever. Because I don't know if you remember the 1995 World Cup. Nelson Mandela came down. South Africa won, and Nelson Mandela came to the trophy celebration, shook hands with Francois Pienaar, the captain, and that was like one of the great moments in South African history.
And Mandela wore the same jersey number.
For such a fractured country at the time, that was...
that night, I think white people and black people hugged each other on the streets. The first time. Wow. They were emotional about this.
There was real hope, in the country. It was proper hope,
Yeah.
So
sure.
It was an amazing experience for people.
Huh.
Yeah.
So interesting days. There's a certain... I mean, I've not... I would say, knowing South African people, I've met all kinds of South African people over the days. I don't know if I've really got to be good friends with the South African, let's say, in my life, but the ones that I've kind of known, especially, let's say, of your generation, Paul, they are the hardest motherfuckers I've ever met in my life. Like, tough, like, you'll be fine, like, cool, calm, and collected, but you start talking, and you go, like, you're a tough, hard motherfucker. Like, from what you had to go through as society, like, it's so many successful businessmen, successful in so many areas of life, black and white as well. It just sort of, like, it just dawned on me a while, like, if you lived through those days... And now you come to a fucking Gentile country like here where everything's nice and relatively and so forth. I mean, you take that attitude, you start doing well. You take that work ethic, that commitment, that drive.
I'm sometimes scared of myself because I feel I'm a bit too fearless, But it comes from that environment, Historically, we were in a position where we always had to be on the lookout. Number one, for the security police, for... police in general, for an army truck that comes around the corner. You always had to watch out, And and still at the same time, you had to be ready to throw a few rocks at these guys. You knew they had R4 machine guns and stuff, and you knew your life was at risk. But you would take that gamble, you would stand up for what is right. And so as young boys, we grew up with the idea that your life could be taken away from you anytime. But you were not afraid of it, I remember as a young teacher, I taught at the school where poverty was probably one of the main topics every day. About 75% of people were unemployed. Drugs, of all kinds, form part of the community. And I had one boy in my class who came with a kind of machete in his bag every day. And I could not take this away from him, because he needed to go home in the afternoon. And this was his means of survival, right? So for him, this was normal. And for many other kids, you would have gangsters coming onto the school, and you had to intervene as a teacher. So you had to have, as my mother would say, balls of steel to make it out there. I remember one time where we had a small battalion of army guys living on tents on the school premises so that we could continue with schooling.
To keep order.
Yeah. In the community, it was that bad. So, and then I mentioned it to a few teachers when I came to Estonia, because I, in later years, started with another person. We were the two founders, members of, or more than two, a few of us, the founder members of the European School. And I mentioned it to some of my teachers that being in the European school, it is a bit weird for me because everything is so okay. It's so peaceful. People complain about stuff that I can't even imagine that people can complain about.
You don't have to go like, whoa.
No. I say your kids come to school and they are traumatized because there was huge-scale shooting on their way to school. And they have to sit through the class and they have not eaten this morning. I with my grade 12 class, later years, we decided on a project. We raised some money through hard times and we painted the classroom, sanded our desk, varnished it, and put a kettle in, toasters and stuff, to make sure everyone just had to bring a 2 rand per week, which is the equivalent of, say, roughly 10 cents. And with this, we went to the supermarket and we bought tea, coffee, bread. So at least you had a sandwich in school every day. Yeah. So during break times, because we don't have canteens in the schools, and you get a sandwich from home. But during break times, I knew they would not have that sandwich, and we could sit in the class and make that, So it was not only about teaching, teaching was a secondary part of this whole equation in terms of education. It was looking after the social being, looking after that child, making sure that they are safe, making sure that they have a meal for the day. That was so. Sometimes I sat in that office as a school manager, and parents come to you, and students and teachers, and they complain about stuff.
Here in Estonia, you mean? Yeah.
I say, how can that be an issue? A boy would cry his heart out. Somebody stepped on his new sneakers, and there's a stain on there that he can't get out now, and he's crying. And you take him to the bathroom and say, "Come with me, my boy. Uncle Paul is going to wash this off for you. No worries." And he would be happy leaving there with his new 200 euro sneakers, So, and I mean, I could take that 200 euro and make miracles at my previous school.
When you back to South Africa, so you said you were 20. You were 23 when you told the story of the rugby game.
Yeah.
So what year is that? Or another question is, how old were you in 1990 when Mr. Mandela is out of prison?
What was that? 74, 84, 94, around 36.
So you had been teaching
In 2000,
right?
Okay.
You were a teacher before that.
Yeah.
So were you teaching in a segregated school as well?
No. This is a colored school.
Colored
you're a
school,
colored
okay.
man, you're in a colored school.
Yeah.
You're a black man, you're in a black school, and you're a white man, you're in a white school. This is how
You're
the
in the
system
colored
works.
school.
So there was a colored Ministry of Education, the House of Representatives, and there was a white ministry under the National Parliament, and then there was no real black ministry.
I was about to say,
that didn't really exist. So that was the situation in terms of education in South Africa. It was very, very segregated, and the amounts of money spent would be X amount for white folks and far less amount for colored people, and then way, way, way less for black folk, Even the social system in terms of providing social justice for families, in terms of grants for children. There was X amount for colored people was quite big because for some reason it happened. But for black people, it would be almost non-existent to get child support from the state, So they were very clear to create a buffer between white and black. They have the offsprings of their own sperm or semen to create that buffer. So even geographically, there would be a black township far away somewhere. There'll be a huge colored township in between, and then you get the white suburbs. And this colored community was almost a buffer. They worked for the white people. They had preferences that black people didn't have. And that's the reality of politics of the day back then in South Africa,
Right. So that's very interesting because you lived. It wasn't like you've lived there, you've grown up, and you're 20, and then you were an adult, right? You've lived a very good chunk of your life under this regime, and
I was 44 when I came to Estonia, so it's been 13 plus years now. So I spent most of my life then experiencing this firsthand. I also had the opportunity when Mandela came out of prison. A few weeks later, I was called up by the ANC, by Theresa Solomon, who later became the first black mayor of Cape Town, a woman of color also. She was my son in Cape Town. She was his the school principal of his school, of his preschool. And Theresa became the first, she was a stalwart of the ANC. She became the first black mayor. And I got the call up from the ANC, Paul, Mandela's coming to this region in the Western Cape and he's doing a roadshow. And we need somebody on the stage, you know. We asked some radio personalities and they all want money. And we know you're a comrade, you will not do that. So I was there on the stage and saying, you know, raising the fist, you know, Amandla, away to my Africa, you know, and introducing Mandela to the masses, you know. This was a big moment in my life, you know, to be there and to actually sit next to him and experience this man that just came out of prison, you know. It was a big privilege that I was asked by the regional ANC executive to do this.
Sure. How many people were there when in this town to see Nelson Mandela then?
Probably, I would say 15,000 people. You know? So I was on the stage, you know, as the MC.
Introducing in front of 15,000 people, introducing Nelson Mandela.
And cameras from every corner of the globe.
No doubt.
Also on this Western Cape Roadshow. So, I mean, but I didn't take this too seriously. I was doing my job as a comrade, you know. I was a member of the ANC, so I was doing what was needed to be done at that time. And afterwards, there's a big party and people go the evening. For me, it was just, you do your thing, I'm going home now.
Okay, yeah.
It's my
job,
duty.
yeah, it's my job. Yeah, it's your job.
Yeah. It was a privilege, I mean, to sit next to him and to shake the hand of the man who was regarded as a peaceful...
So this is before he was president?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it was
before,
soon after he came out.
Soon after he came out, right. Oh, a few weeks. He's Christ.
So, and one of the things that impressed me most, you know, I don't know, the small detail, but he always wanted to be a boxer. He was interested in boxing, you know. And at the moment when I sat down, he came and I introduced him, you know, and then he sat down and another speaker, Dr. Ellen Busak, who was the leader of the Mass Democratic Movement at the time, the ANC, they were banned, and then we formed another organization called the MDM, the Mass Democratic Movement, and then Ellen Busak, he was the leader of this movement, and he then took over, and I sat next to, and his hands, I heard about his hands, but I didn't realize when I sat and shook his hands are humongous. I mean, he's a tall bloke, but I didn't realize that his hands were that big. You know, my hands are not very big, but yeah, he's huge.
Okay.
You know. So yeah, as I say, it was an amazing moment in my life.
Sure, definitely a memorable one.
But it's interesting that at the time you were like, all right, I did my job and now I'm going home.
Yeah. I mean, I was an MC I had my own events management company in South Africa called PSP, and I did events almost every week in summer.
Oh, wow, okay.
3 days events in a row, like festivals and so on. I have the stage built, sound engineers, you know, stalls, maybe 50, 60 stalls, and so I would manage.
So, and you're
a
teacher as well.
Yes, I
but
was doing.
On the side, you've got this business doing events, and it's not. Were you or like if someone wants to do an event, they'll hire you to do all of that.
Yes, I put the whole thing.
Put the whole thing together.
Yeah. I didn't have a sound engineering company. I didn't have a stage building company. I just outsourced everything. So I managed the whole event also for the weekend. And sometimes I would have 2 major events on the same weekend.
Not sure.
And I have to manage both with my team, you know. So this was my sideline, if one can call it that. So, and I would MC both events, you know, and I would have also radio personalities coming in, and you know, from Radio Good Hope or Radio P4 and whatever, and they would come, and they would be sort of your attraction on the posters, you know.
Yeah, of course.
And they would do some extra work for you for 2-3 hours, manage a portion of the day on the stage, you know. So that was a fun part of my life for around 15 years.
That's wow.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a short period of time, 15 years. Have you ever thought did you ever think that that's something you want to go back to, or the food is really, that was the calling when you're here?
You know, in Estonia, when you say, hey, I can put this event together in 24 hours, they look at you and say, no, we've got this covered. Then they take 3 months to put it together. And they say,
okay.
All right, okay, you know. Yeah. So, I mean, I would pick up the phone and call 5 people and the event is done.
Yeah.
It became that easy for me, you know, because I would SK Sound, Ellen Baker, I need a stage, I need sound, he says, Paul, it's done.
Sure.
It's
Because you've
end of
built
story.
those relationships.
Over
Those
years.
people know you. They
Yeah.
know, right, they know what you want. Yeah.
I call Media 24. They own all the media on the African continent, right? So I say, I will give you the opportunity to be part of this event. And I want 1 million rands worth of coverage in every single newspaper that you own. They say, Paul, what more can we do? You know, so this is the kind of thing that you build up over years. So for me, it was just a few phone calls and it would happen, you know. So yeah, people look at you and they say, what would you know about events? You know? So it's a bit sad, but
Well, maybe. I mean, maybe you could, but and you come to a new place, you've got to rebuild those relationships, those friendships. Sorry, you can talk, Tim. It's okay.
Oh, do I need the key?
No, you don't need the key.
so I suppose I would not. It's hard work.
Yeah,
I promise
sure.
you.
Yeah,
It is
I
hard
believe.
work.
I know. Well, I know. Putting on events. Yeah. Organizing big things, getting that all together, getting. It's a
25,000 people a day, 3 days in a row.
sure.
Yeah, having, you know, your security company, 20, 30 guards. Because in South Africa, you have to have that. It's not a choice, you know. And it's your electrician comes in a week before the time, lay out the whole place for you. Because if you have 60 stalls, you have to have 60 plug points and 60 lights, and you have the spotlights, and it's quite a huge task. You know?
Yeah, right.
But I mean, it kept me going for many years. I was like an adrenaline junkie around these events, you know.
Okay. Was that partly? How would you describe the balance between? Was it that you had this energy and an entrepreneurial spirit, and how was it? How much like, okay, the teacher's salary isn't that good, and you know you got to supplement that a bit.
You know, when I started as a young teacher, the first year I had a friend at the school who loved to do the school events. He was also the one of the executive members of Western Province Athletics. So he first asked me, Paul, we have this Western Province meet this year. You know, there'll be all the school kids from the Western Cape, and we need a guy that can sit behind the mic, you know, during the day and do the announcements and so on. I said, count me in.
Yeah.
So I did that. A young teacher. Then he says, hey, the school's going to have this big event. You're new to the school. Would you like to be part of it? I said, you can even leave it in my hands. This was my first big event for the school. And it was, according to him, it was impressive. And then it started from there, just growing, you know, rapidly. So it was just something that was, the seed was planted there at the first school where I started teaching. And as I say, Nabil Dean, he had a lot to do with this. And later on, it became clear that this is something that I could do with the greatest of ease. You know, I talk to people. I go knock on doors. The guy owns McDonald's. He has 5, 6 McDonald's. And I say, hey, Mr. Carolison, listen, I'm going to offer you an opportunity. With the media, I don't go and make a phone call. I go to the head office of the media. And I say, this is what I need. And this is what I can offer in exchange. At one point, I had this African breweries come with a truck to my house during the festive season, delivering kegs and draft machines, and then I put it up next to my pool, and this is for the season. I don't pay for it; they would deliver it.
Of course.
You know, so that's the kind of relationship that you build up over time. You know, but it takes a lot of energy, honestly.
Right, but that's what we can see you're doing here again. It's the same attitude with the pies here. We're going to, I'm not just going to roll in and set up my stall and whatever and keep to myself. You're going to be a member of this community.
Absolutely, and I can't see me doing it in any other different way. And as I said earlier with staffing, I expect my staff to have the same kind of energy and enthusiasm for this project. So, I suppose my father was, he passed away some years ago, but he was the same, you know, lots of energy. My mom is still, she's going towards 80 now, and she's still doing flowers for weddings.
Yeah.
You know, she will do the whole wedding.
Great attitude.
Yeah, she's retirement is, I mean, she's not in the flower shop anymore, but she does it from her garage at home next to the house, you know. And not as many weddings and so on, but
You've got to slow down a bit.
Yeah.
The story reminds me of, we were telling the story on a previous podcast about how McDonald's first came into the USSR. While it was still the USSR,
Yeah.
McDonald's opened up a store in Moscow, in Pushkin Square. And they say one of the big issues that McDonald's had to overcome at the time was, well, USSR not exactly known for its customer service, not exactly known for, being friendly to people. And I guess I was thinking about this story because we're like, oh, will Paul be able to find such individuals, here in Estonia, right? Not again. But the answer, the McDonald's executive at the time had a great reply, which is like, at the time, he's like, the USSR is the #1 in the Olympics. They can train all of those young people to do the most amazing feats of athletics. We can train them how to sell burgers. Like, it's possible.
Yeah.
Like, it's not this. Everyone was like, it'll never happen. Like, yeah, you guys could do that. Why can't you do that? And I feel like it might even be the same thing here as well.
Yeah.
You think, oh, no, in Estonia, you'll never find someone. No. So I bet you will.
No, I have found some amazing people also. That I've used maybe for 2-3 hours to take a break over the weekends, and they are there. It's just about finding them, finding a person that is totally not interested in and trying to train them. Maybe it would be foolhardy.
Well, sure.
But I mean, there are good people out there that are capable, and I think that we'll be able to pull it off.
Right.
Sure.
With the right leadership, with the right direction, that someone
Absolutely.
actually takes the time and has that genuine interest in them.
And I think the key thing is perhaps to take them to the kitchen also. Give them an idea of what it is that goes into the production of the pies, so that when they tell the story to people, they understand exactly what it is all about.
Where is are you? What kitchen are you cooking in right now?
I have a kitchen that I'm using in Liverlaya Street.
Okay.
It belongs to Senior Sal, mostly the Refugee Council of Estonia. So there was a point during December when I said the truck doesn't work anymore. It's too cold.
It's too cold.
And I needed the kitchen, and these guys reached out and they said, "Hey, Paul, we are willing to support you and to provide you with space in the kitchen." I'm not the only chef in the kitchen. There are other chefs also. But I have enough time to do what I need to do. So, this is where I am at the moment. But ideally, my goal and dream is in the next 2 years to have built up enough capital to buy a space, let's say 50 square meters. I don't want anything in there other than a plug point, water points, and so on, and equipped it over time to the kitchen that I really want, the dream kitchen. Not a restaurant, just a kitchen. That's it. Maybe a hole in the hall where a guy can come with his car or walk past and buy something while we're baking.
Right, the factory outlet sort of thing.
The factory outlet.
Okay.
That's the idea.
Outlet. That's the
maybe
idea.
at a good price also.
Sure, and then using those to supply your different outlets in Baltijaam.
Exactly.
Yeah, because I was wondering, because I have a friend who works in catering in Dublin, in Ireland, and there are just commissary kitchens you can rent.
Yeah.
And I thought, surely that's a thing here, but I guess not, right?
For me, I want to have my own place.
Yeah.
It's critical for the development of the business, I want to have the space and create it. It's almost like a little an altar that you use for giving praise, to give you thanks. So, and I want to create it around my persona.
Yeah.
And train people in there on how to be with food. Not just, put it in, done. Know how to connect with food. That's important for me.
Interesting. That space is important. I mean, even something like this studio here, right? We've got this. It's not just a random studio we're going on to. This is our studio here. Okay, we built this up. Now we may even go to a new studio. So maybe it's your. Now it's Tim's going to be Tim's studio. So we're moving studios. We're doing a slightly room, and Tim's going to take this room. So now this is Tim. And the foam, we put the foam on the wall ourselves. We put the carpet down. We've had this room was the original Comedy Estonia office.
Yeah.
So that was, I want to say 6-7 years ago almost.
Yeah.
I had one employee, Marian, and we're like, we can't keep working from home. And so we rented this little room with a table in the middle, and then another employee comes, and then another, and it gets too big, and we got to move out. So we kept this as this room as the studio. So
I think that the first 3 weeks when I started the business, I worked from home.
Okay, out of your own kitchen. Cooking them at home.
And after 3 weeks, my wife said, "This is just absolutely enough. I'm opening the windows. It doesn't work. The whole house smells like food because I'm cooking on this house top
Yep.
and then the small oven. So I have to be up.
You're
very
baking
early.
them in the home oven, okay?
Yeah.
That's gonna be slow as well.
Oh
'cause
my!
that's-
And only so many pies at a time.
right.
So it was a bit of a nightmare, until I got this place in Frenchy. But I mean, so my wife just said, "This is just enough. You need to find a solution."
Yeah.
And I mean, I found the solution, but it started at home.
There's a
The
few of
first
those
3 weeks.
places now in town, like Burks, this burger place. Some bloke makes them out of his flat and leave a lie.
Mm-hmm.
And you see it, like if you're on the Bolt app or whatever, it'll tell you like digital only venue, because it's just some bloke
Yeah.
in his house.
So there's no pickup, they'll say. Is that the idea? What do you mean digital? Like
Like it's not a restaurant you can go to and sit in and eat. Or
Sure.
you know.
Right.
I'm not even sure you can pick it up.
Yeah,
It's just
can you? Is
delivery
that?
only, yeah.
Do you sell your stuff on Volt to Walt? Or
I have Volt. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a necessary evil, if I can call it that, because I mean you have to give so much of your revenue to them. 25% is 25%, and it eats into your bottom line in a way that you can't begin to imagine. So it's nice to have, and I suppose for me it's a marketing tool, not so much a revenue generator.
Yeah.
You get more people to know about your product, and you get good feedback. I mean, I think that we're still on 5 points, which is 100%, and so our rating is probably the highest or the second highest of all businesses registered on Volt, which is good for us. I mean, you can use that as a tool as well and say, hey, you go to Volt and you check our ratings and see the feedback that people give. The feedback was 100% good. So yes, as a marketing tool, it works.
It seems hard, yeah, like you said. I mean, necessary evil, connotations of the term evil, but something you've got to do. Because I was very surprised when I was in Paderno, a couple of months ago, and I wanted that good Stefani's pizza, like everyone wants to do when they're in Paderno, and they're like, it ain't on Volt. We've got our own delivery service. Call these. I'm like, call a guy. What? And then he might but. I could see that the only way that the delivery services are so dominant that the only way you would need to be like only a few big players could possibly resist that. And okay, Stefani in Paderno in that small market is big enough to resist the Bolt and the Volt. But I don't know if anyone...
I would imagine there is a way to get out of this. For example, and I'm now not going against Volt and Bolt here, but let's say you have if all the guys in the market, for example, decide they want to do the in-house delivery, everyone in the market, and we all put money in the pool and we register an ungovernmental organization, an MTU, and we say we call it X, and we say each one gives 2,000. If you have 40 traders, it's 80,000 euro. It's enough to get some of the smartest guy to develop an app, right? And to rent as many vehicles as you want to and employ people. Then you do delivery service 100% for the market. Let's say with 5 vehicles and 5 drivers. And before you know it, you're covering Teleskivi and the whole of Kalamaya. And if you take that out of the equation, right, for guys like Volt and Bolt, it will just sink them completely. So it is possible. Right. But is the willingness there to do this? And this is not going against these guys. They have a right to exist. But also anyone has the right to go up against them and challenge them. It's business.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's the tough part, because then you've got to be your app yourself. We saw this somewhat with similarly with the way taxis in Thailand, and taxis are particularly, I don't have a strong love for the taxi industry. I think they're particularly fucking stubborn, but they're an example of taking the stubbornness all the way to the end. They tried their own apps, but then there was like 5 apps for taxis, and no one's like, I don't want 5 apps for my taxis. Now, having said that, food and taxis aren't comparable, because I don't have the love for a taxi company that I do for my food vendor. And I specifically need your pies. I don't specifically need any taxis, which puts them even at a greater disadvantage than individual pie. At least I have allegiance to your food. There's no allegiance to Thailand taxi otherwise. But they... I mean, now the history tells that tale. There's only Bolt or whatever Uber left or something, and that's it. And all there are some. I think Tulaka has one, and maybe Tallink still has their app for taxis. So. Maybe they do, but no,
but that's a new problem in and of itself, because you saw in London they banned Uber because the taxis all basically unionized and said, right,
Right.
we're not making money anymore. So.
If the taxis have enough political clout
Yeah.
to be able to exercise that, which they don't in Estonia. Estonia said, well, fuck you, free market.
Yeah.
Right. So
yeah.
if you wanted to all get together and be your own vendor, right?
Yeah.
If any significant, and let's say 20 is significant number of vendors got together and said, we're going to do our own app on our own terms. But then it's like, you've got to keep it just, or how to say, if you guys did all of that, cool, resist the temptation to expand beyond your current market. Because that's what I think, it's how you sort of end up going down this road of like, well, it's a business, and then all of a sudden it's the next Vault. How to resist that expansion is, because that would be the thing.
But I think you need to write this up as part of the founding principles and rules of the organization when you start out. As I say, you call it an MTU, and you say, let's say, for example, you say
it's an MTU.
The maximum is 15% that you can charge.
Yeah.
We start from 10 to 15% instead of 25, 30%. So you don't charge anyone beyond 15%. So that's already a huge reduction in the monies, the revenue that companies have to hand over. You know?
Right. But then you've got to still run a business.
Yes, you could easily do that with rented vehicles and some drivers. You pay them a decent salary because there is no big profit margin. It's not the idea. You need enough to cover. You'll have enough money in there at the end of the financial year to, let's say, we need new vehicles, whatever the case may be. There will be money for that. But you're not going to make hundreds of millions. That's not the idea.
Because you're not trying to. You're trying to sell a pie.
Exactly. You know, so you provide a service to your clients, and you're providing it so that the small businesses are able to survive. I mean, if I have to choose between 25 or 30% and 10% as a small business, and my food can still get delivered, and the drivers are from there, and I can support their families, I would choose the 10% from the in-house delivery service.
Sure.
That's my choice as a small business.
Do Volt charge the same percentage if I was to go collect the food myself?
They charge 20% if you collect yourself.
Yeah, because that's a crazy one to me. You know,
That's rough. Okay, 'cause that's something where a company could potentially. I mean, I was sort of looking at your now analyzing the business plan of Paul. Okay, drivers coordinating. Okay, that seems like a lot, right? But getting an app just to take my order. Okay, that seems pretty reasonable. Get some kid to code up some individual app, but then it's another app. Okay, but if you have a strong enough that relies on you having built a strong enough brand and allegiance, which, well, it sounds like you're well on the way, but you know, getting there, and then to overcome that resistance of going to another app.
but also it's the fact that it would be a Baltijaam vendor app. You know,
Yeah.
Baltijaam Turg itself is a pretty strong brand. You know,
Yeah.
so you know, if you bank off that, then it probably would work out. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm hoping at the end of this podcast, and for people to listen, that there'll be already people standing in a queue with money. You know, who knows? We never know. But I mean, it's not something.
Pies.
Yeah, it's not something unholy to do.
to
It's a
go
good-
against Bolt and Volt.
Yeah, you're not going against them. You're just creating something beautiful that is more meaningful and that will help small business. And in essence, it will make the consumer feel better about their contribution. Because many consumers come and they say, Paul, I will not order anything on Volt to Bolt. I come to you because I know that in the end, I'm stabilizing your bottom line if I come and visit. And I get to talk to you as well at the same time.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I see what you mean. The food thing, it's a big one to overcome that now, and I guess with the pandemic as well, this is what's... Because at first, when Volt first showed up, I mean, they were just dropping cash nonstop to market their service because they have to go from zero to a brand that everybody wants to use. I mean, at first it was just Volt, just pay. And that's the advantage that your collective would have, that you don't have to pay for marketing. You're not trying to pay, because that's where the money went with Volt. No doubt millions of marketing, because it was everywhere when they first came. Take Volt, take Volt.
Yeah, yeah. And everyone just, you know, for those guys who are on this app, if we have a new app, they can also opt to be with Volt and Bolt at the same time. It's their choice. So you're not the enemy of Volt and Bolt. You're just creating something more beautiful. You know,
And sure, competition's healthy anyway. Fuck them.
it is.
So I wanted to pivot because I wanted to ask you, like, because we live in this country, Estonia, bright future, you know, tech. Ooh, yeah, it's cool to live in Estonia. Like, how hopeful are you for the future of your country, South Africa?
Yeah, you know, I dare not say too much about the country because my connection with the country is a little bit lost at this point. I don't follow up because I work so much. I don't follow up with the latest news and so on. But South Africa as a people, they are resilient. And this is common knowledge.
I'll say that. That's an understatement of this whole podcast.
Yeah.
South African people are resilient. I would agree.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think wherever they go in the world, whether it's creating Tesla or doing the first successful heart transplant with Dr. Chris Barnett or whatever the case might be, they have proven themselves to be non-quitters. You know, we never say die, you know. So I am hopeful that something good will... I mean, there's lots of good already in the country, and there's a lot of trouble also, you know. The economic outlook of the country is not rosy at all. I mean, Corona has caused a hell of a lot of damage. As you know, South Africa as a whole is a tourist destination for the world. Cape Town in particular, you know, it's one of the most attractive. Condé Nast has voted it twice as the world's most beautiful place to visit. So, I mean, the world knows that. And having 2 seasons in a row without this industry flourishing, it's damaging, especially to the Western Cape that relies heavily on tourism. I mean, the whole region is geared towards receiving tourists. So, yes, it is going through turmoil, but, you know, for every down, there's an up coming. And I believe South Africa will bounce back from this. Absolutely. No doubt about that.
Yeah. Can I tell you my favorite Nelson Mandela story quickly?
Yeah.
I don't know how much time do we have left. Do we have
However you like. I'm good.
Okay,
So, hey, I have a poll.
I have a 4 o'clock lesson.
Okay, we'll wrap up soon.
All
But
right,
finish
fine.
on you.
Have you ever heard of Eddie van Maltitz?
Eddie Fun?
Maltitz.
Malted sounds
Yeah.
like a crazy tits, no? I'm just asking.
Well, you've never heard that name
Mal is
before. No?
crazy, so tits. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good joke. But he was a commander of the AWB back in the day.
Yeah.
The AWB was like the far right.
You're not talking about Eugene Terblanche, no?
Eugene Terblanche's organization.
Yeah.
But he was a commander in that organization. And when Mandela came out of prison, Mandela tried to contact Eugene Terblanche and say, look, let's talk. Let's try and work this stuff out. You know, this violence is not going to work. So Eugene Terblanche said, no, fuck off.
Yeah.
So Mandela reached out to von Maltitz instead. And Eddie von Maltitz was fairly radical, you know, self-admitted racist and all that. But he said, look, I'll sit down with him anyway. And over the course of one short conversation, Mandela completely changed this man's whole outlook. And he's still alive, Eddie. He's a farmer in Vicksburg, and I talk to him every now and then on Facebook. His mind is going now at the moment, so he's posting crazy conspiracy theories or whatever. But it was just amazing how, like, one conversation with Mandela was enough to change this lifelong, self-admitted racist commander of the far-right organization, you know, militant, trained his kids to shoot black people type of thing. And one conversation was all that did it. So
What? I mean, it sounds like an amazing thing, but can you provide any more context of this conversation? How does that...
he just talked to him. Mandela listened to him.
Okay.
I think that's the key.
Yeah, just listened to him.
That's the key.
And just said, look, we both want the same things, but, you know, it's not about black versus white. And he changed. His story is crazy because Eddie went on, because he lived, there's a small little landlocked country called Lesotho.
Lesotho.
Sorry.
Eswatini
is they changed their name, Sesotho, right? To Eswatini recently. Yeah. His farm is on the border. He learned the language of that country, and there's videos of him, like, before and after, like Nazi salutes, and then he's going through the town speaking the language of the people, and it's just a crazy story.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to mention him because I'm going to send him this podcast and go, hey, I mentioned you, Eddie.
Yeah. You know, there's also the story of Mandela when he came out of prison.
I don't know. Tell me, please.
He went to visit his prison guard, a white bloke.
Okay.
He came with his entourage.
Yeah.
And he came to this guy's house
To his house.
to break bread with him.
Wow. And the guard received him. And
Yeah, it was an amazing story. That's the nature of the man. This is how he's. And I think all of us as South Africans have taken a bit from him, and have learned, that he told us, hating is going to bring nothing. It's going to make you bitter, sick, and old, before your time. And I remember a story when a friend of my wife's, she came to visit and said, "I'm coming to visit, but I have a new boyfriend." I said, "Of course." So, hospitality is part of what I do. Open some wine. The guy came in, quite a big bloke, big hands, and he sat down, affable smile, and he sat down and he spoke about politics a bit, and so how he feels about black people and Muslims and so on and so on, and that he's a member of ECRE, and that
Okay.
and he shared his views on. Now, under normal circumstances, you would put him out of the house, to begin with. He's now an ECRE member, and so I poured more wine and I cooked more food, and we sat down and we chatted the whole night, And all I did was listen to him. Because, you see, the problem is that we are all right, He's right, and I'm right, and everyone else, we are all right. We can never be wrong, because our conditions that we lived in, and the environments that we grew up in, and the stories that we heard from our family, from the church, from the school, that forms us. It makes us who we are. So how can we be wrong if that is what we grew up with, right? So if we listen and we give this man an opportunity to share with us where he's coming from, then I get an understanding of who he is, and I can meet him halfway. And on the next occasion, this man came back to my house, and he wanted to hear my story. And he listened to me. And so now he had an opportunity to also take this information and work with it. And then say, there's something else going on. I only had one version of what's going on in the world. Now I heard something different, right? And strange enough, he had this thing where they do this camping in the tents, and they do this Second World War German Nazi songs that they sing the whole night while they're drinking in the tents. Okay. And for some reason, he invited me to come along.
Okay.
And I could see this big African pot on the 3 legs with a fire underneath, and me being dinner, being chopped up. And that's why they're inviting me on this march and on this camp. And I said to myself, rather not, I politely declined the invitation to go on this march, because first and foremost, I don't know these songs, so I would be a nuisance in the tents while they're drinking and singing these Second World War songs, So, but I mean, he invited me on hikes, because he started understanding there's another story that needs to be told. And I say critically for all of us that no one is wrong. ECRE cannot be wrong, because they're speaking from what they understand only.
Right.
And so does any other politician believe in what they believe because of where they come from. But it's about the story that Mum says there's a left wing and a right wing and a center. And if you cut one off, the bird doesn't fly. So, the right wing has a story because they believe that they have been maltreated or treated poorly in the country. They've been overlooked by other politicians. And so we need to listen to what people have to say. And if we get to that point where we listen with real enthusiasm and with an open mind, then we start reaching out to one another. If not, then there's constant conflict.
I think this is on those words, this is the final piece of the puzzle we've needed. We need the tour of Estonia. Okay, me, you, Tim, me, Dave Benton, James Verst, you cooking the sausages.
Of course.
All right.
Absolutely.
You provide the sausages and the pie. Yeah. We go around Estonia, visiting towns, just cooking sausages and having beers. Hey, come have a beer with us. Come just have a sausage. You like the sausage? Let's talk.
Yeah. Maybe a bit of sauna in between. A
little bit of sauna in there. We're as you said, meeting halfway. A perfect example of that. We'll do that tour. I reckon we can knock over a lot of, not to say, I don't want to say that, get rid of prejudice, of difficulties, right? That can go a long way. Just something like that. We're going to do it. We'll get some culture money for sure.
So people just have to Because most people they don't listen. They want to wait for you to stop talking so they can talk. Just gotta listen. That's it.
I like it.
Absolutely.
All right, let's wrap it up on that thought.
No, for sure.
For the future. Paul, thanks for coming in and talking to us.
It's been a pleasure, and I hope that we'll get to do a bit more of this.
Yeah,
in the
let's do it
future.
again. Yeah. I can't wait to see. Pardon me, when does the van go to Teleskivi? Let's
On
wrap
the
it up.
20th of May.
20th of May.
Yeah,
Okay. So
we'll be open, say, from about 11:30 in the morning, and hopefully till 11 at night.
Good.
Is it a Thursday to Sunday thing, or is it a
Thursday
week
to
thing?
Sunday for now.
Okay, so Thursday's the 20th of May, is it? And then, well, fuck it, we're going to be there,
All
Tim.
right, let's be there the 20th.
Yeah, we're going to be there getting your
absolutely.
sausages. We'll get a drink from James in the Budal bar and then come over there and have this. This sounds tremendous.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Paul. Thanks, Tim.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. Cheers.
Bye bye.